Hey everybody, this week we're going to be reading Women in Aviation by Patricia and Frederick McKissick. And again, our essential question in Unit 1 is what helps people rise up to face difficulties? So be sure to keep that question in mind as we begin reading, but we're going to go ahead and get started with our Get Ready portion of the text. So first of all, what I would like for you to do is this quick start piece. Go ahead and make a web of traits that you think help people when they're pursuing a dream. So what abilities are they going to have? What character traits do they need to pursue a dream long term? And if you'd like to, you can just write over here to the side in your student textbook. And these will need to be submitted on Canvas, so make sure that you get a good list in. So go ahead and pause the video and make your list. All right, now that you've made your list and you've got it written down in your book, I'm going to show you my list, some of the things that I came up with. So here in the center, I have pursuing a dream, you see, and then I have 4 things that I think a person would need to pursue a dream. So they're going to need faith that they can reach their goal. They're going to need perseverance because it's not going to come easy, right? Pursuing dreams is sometimes hard. And so they're going to need that perseverance to kind of get through those tough times. They're also going to need determination. So they're going to have to know that they can attain, they can attain this goal. They can pursue their dream and make it a reality. They're going to have that determination. And they're also going to have a strong work ethic because, again, sometimes pursuing dreams can be hard. In fact, most of the time it's hard. So they're going to have that strong work ethic. They're going to have to know, okay, I'm going to have to work hard for this, and that's okay. I can do it. So that was kind of my list. That was my thoughts. And you may have had some similar thoughts. I hope so. So let's go ahead and talk about determining author's purpose. So an author's purpose is the reason that the author is writing whatever text that you're reading. So usually you can narrow it down to 4 different things, and that's really interesting because when I was coming through school, we only had 3 different things. So you guys have 4. So the first one is to inform or explain. So maybe the author just wants to teach you about something. They want to let you know about something. So they're informing you or explaining something to you. And some examples of this are like encyclopedia entries, informational articles, how-to articles, so like reading how to do something, recipes, and biographies. So those are some things that are meant to kind of inform you about something or to explain something to you. Now, the second one is to persuade. So that means that the author is like wanting you to kind of join their side. They want you to think the way that they think. And so the point of them writing is to kind of coax you into thinking the way that they think or agreeing with them. So some examples of these pieces are editorials, opinion essays and blogs, and even advertisements, right? They don't advertise for Reese's because they want you to hate Reese's. They want you to love them and go buy them. So they're persuading you to go to the store and buy Reese's. The third one is to entertain. So maybe the author just wants to entertain you, to make you laugh, to make you enjoy something, right? So some examples of these are short stories, novels, plays, humorous essays, those things that are solely written to just make you have a good time. And then the last one is to express thoughts or feelings. So maybe the author has some really strong feelings and they feel like the only way they can get it out is to write it. And so some examples of those are poems, personal essays, journals. A lot of people keep journals just because they want to get out those emotions, those thoughts, and the only way they feel that they can do that is to write it down. So of course, sometimes it's not always cut and dry. Your author may have a variety of reasons that they're writing this piece or, whatever piece they're writing. So it may be a combination of 2 or 3, or it may just be one thing. So it's our job as the reader to kind of figure out and determine the author's purpose. So why is the author writing this piece? Okay, so it says, to determine an author's purpose, consider how the details and evidence in a text fit together to lead to a main idea or message for readers. So author's purpose relates very closely to main idea. Consider, too, how you feel about the topic. For example, informed, entertained, or challenged after reading the text. So once you've read, how are you, the reader, feeling? Do you feel like, oh, wow, I just learned a whole lot about physics? Then you're informed. Or if you feel like, oh, man, that was such a good story. I mean, that Tom Sawyer, he's something else. You're entertained. So a lot of it has to do, too, with how you, the reader, are feeling at the end of it. All right, so cite evidence and evaluate details. After reading informational text, you will often be asked to cite evidence to support your own ideas. That just means that you have a thought in your head about the piece, and you're going to use quotes from the text to support your thought, okay? Before you can do that, you must first evaluate details. Make judgments about the facts, quotations, examples, and other details in the text. So you kind of have to pick and choose what details are going to fit your thought. Okay? In order to evaluate details, ask, how do these details support the author's purpose and main idea or message of the selection? Next, consider your own knowledge about or experience with the topic. So first of all, how does this quote or detail support my main idea? How does it support my author's purpose? Okay. Then think about, okay, what do I already know? As a person, as the reader, what do I already know? What experience do I already have? Then, based on your evaluation of the details, cite the evidence that best supports your idea. So you're kind of pulling main idea, what supports my main idea, what the author's trying to do, and also what kind of supports what I know, and you're kind of mixing those two things together. So if you were asked whether women were pioneers in aviation, you might evaluate details from paragraph 2 of the selection, which is about women who piloted hot air balloons in the early 1800s. Even if you have never piloted a hot air balloon yourself, you may know that takes great skill and courage. I personally would never fly a hot air balloon. That sounds really scary. So I know that it would take a very brave person to do that. Now, you could cite evidence to support the idea that women were pioneers in aviation in the early 1800s. So women in the early 1800s were going out and they were flying these hot air balloons by themselves. So they were really working towards the, aviation that we know and some people love today. All right, so moving on to critical vocabulary. So our vocabulary words for this selection are inundate, restrictive, exhibition, and precaution. So see how many of these critical vocabulary words you already know by using them in these sentences. So go ahead and pause your video and write your vocab words in these blanks, just right there in your book. And you'll submit these on Canvas too, so make sure that you've got them written down. All right, moving on to language conventions. Consistent verb tenses. Now, this is a tricky one. Our verbs are our action words, and we want to make sure that we're staying in the same tense. So are we in past tense? Are we in present tense? Are we in future tense? And whatever we pick, as the writer, okay, we have to make sure that we're staying in that throughout our whole piece. So it says, in this lesson, you will learn about the importance of using the correct verb tense to clarify meaning and of using a single tense unless you have a good reason to switch. So an example says, Coleman's mother, who had been a slave, encouraged all of her children to attend school in order to better themselves. Encouraged is in the past tense. Had been is in the past perfect tense. So this switch shows that the mother's time as a slave was earlier. Okay? So, for example, I'm just making up numbers here. So, Coleman's mother was a slave when she was 13. Okay? That's in the past, right? If she's Let's say she's 50 now. Okay. That's in the past. And she's encouraging her children to go to school when she's 32. That's in the past too, when she's 50. But 13 is further back in the past. So that switches it to past perfect tense. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. If not, ask me. Okay. Feel free to email me, ask me questions. All right. So the switch shows that the mother's time as a slave came earlier. As you read Women in Aviation, note how the authors consistently use the past tense and switch only when necessary to make the meaning clear. So they're going to be talking in past tense because this is stuff that happened in the past. And they may switch when they need to go further back, or maybe they need to come closer to present tense. So pay attention to that and make note of that in your story as you're reading. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to email me, message me, do whatever you need to do to get up with me. I'll be more than glad to answer.